We're all familiar with the slew of dating websites that promise to match you with the person of your dreams. Well, now researchers at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln are connecting people in the ag field. Hold on, it's not quite what you think. The Crop Residue Exchange is a website that helps farmers with extra forage and crop residue link up with cattle producers who need a place for their animals to graze. UNL's Dr. J. Parsons and Dr. Daren Redfearn stopped by to talk about the Crop Residue Exchange and the research that led to its creation.
Well, the research that we had looked at basically reasons for corn stalk grazing, whether they did it or didn't, and if they didn't, why, and would they allow it for what price would they allow it for. And basically what we found out was that of those that don't allow grazing on their corn stalks, about 40% of them said they wouldn't no matter what the price. And for the other 60% that would, the prices varied quite a bit, anywhere from $1 an acre, actually free. I think 17% of those said they would do it for free, on up to $15 an acre or more. So there's a number of reasons why they wouldn't allow it. Number one being compaction and things like that that might affect that next crop, and Daren would have a lot more to add.
Yeah, a lot of the reasons that they don't want cattle on the pasture, the reasons that they give are because it impedes some kind of field operation. Specifically, oftentimes some of them will implement some fall tillage, some of them will do some fall application of anhydrous ammonia. There's some rumors going around, if you will, that cattle cause quite a bit of compaction on these cropland, and then so some producers will mention that they're a little bit concerned about some of the compaction that occurs, but primarily it's more of a surface roughness as opposed to some of the deep compaction like would be caused by some of the field equipment.
And some cornfields shouldn't be grazed. I know topography is a big reason for that, but usually that's not the case in Nebraska though, right?
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's Nebraska's pretty blessed with having about 9 million acres of corn each year that's harvested for grain. Some of those fields severely slope. Typically those have low grain production, and so they don't produce as much residue. So leaving that residue on as a surface protection to erosion is a big factor for not grazing those fields. The fields that do have quite a bit of production, you know, we can see somewhere from 4.5 to 5 tons an acre of corn residue following grain harvest. And so the reason that's important is because the following year that can impede seed placement, result in some soil slow to warm up during the spring. So there are a lot of agronomic factors the following year for removing residue.
And when the cows are put out to graze a harvested cornfield, they'll really clear it out, won't they? They're selective grazers, right?
Yeah, they're selective grazers, and what that means is they pick the highest quality material first. And on a corn plant, that typically is any grain that finds its way onto the ground. A lot of the equipment is pretty good these days, so not a lot of it is spilled. That's what we're talking about, are stalks that have lodged and have some grain on the ground. So they'll go and they'll clean up the grain first. The second thing they'll pick up are the husk, which are also pretty palatable. Then the third and final thing that they go for, any leaf material that hasn't blown off of the field, they'll go in and clean that up as well.
And I know also you guys are here to talk about the Crop Residue Exchange. Tell us how that works.
Well, you know, it was motivated by just the large number of corn acres that we have, and the cows looking basically for a place to graze and for winter feed. So we set it up basically so that crop producers can list their crop, not just corn residue, but any crop residue that they have available for grazing. So it has like a Google Map tool on it. So crop producer would go in and register themselves. It's minimal contact information on there. But once they're registered, then they could go ahead and create a listing, and they have a Google Map tool where they can draw out the field and put in the number of acres and then the conditions that they have for the grazing piece. So if it's corn residue, they list it as corn residue. They list the dates it's available, the rental rate that they have involved, if they're providing care, if it's fenced, or if it has water, all of those particulars. So then livestock producers can go in and search those listings and find residue that is available for them to use.
And I think also, Daren, you had some other research that you wanted to mention too in relation to that.
Yeah, as Jay had interested, you know, we get kind of interested in the value of all of this. It's a little bit hard to get numbers on, but Go back, we've got 9 million acres of corn harvested for grain. About half of those acres are grazed each year. There are near 2 million beef cows in Nebraska, so the opportunity there is for both to increase the profitability of some of the crops producers and then some cost savings to the livestock producers. So we did some estimates, used some published data, used some ag statistics data, used some survey data that we had from Nebraska, and estimated that the current value of grazed crop residue be returned to the crop sector would be almost $75 million each year. So, even for a dead plant, it's pretty valuable.